Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call to order the Village Board of Oregon meeting for Monday, June 3rd, 2024. Item 2, roll call, please.
Bashan,
Here.
Higgins,
Here.
Kirchdorfer,
Here.
Mankey,
Here.
McDaniel,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
and Van Campen.
Here. Item 3, approval of May 20th, 2024 Village Board meeting minutes if correct and corrections of mistakes if any. Staff recommendation motion to approve as presented. Looking for a motion. Tim and Amanda. Corrections, changes. Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 4, public appearances, comments, and communications. Item for discussion and/or possible action. A, swearing in, oath of office, and promotion for Kyle Shuey to patrol sergeant with the Oregon Police Department.
Yes, thank you. I'll just share a few words about Kyle before we have him up here to have him turn all red and swear in. So many of you may know Kyle Shuey. He was raised here. He's worked for our police department for about 9 years. He's filled the roles of police officer and school resource officer, soon to be an instructor as well. Fortunate for me, I'm right now directly supervising the SRO program, as many of you know, and so it's given me an opportunity to work right alongside of him and see him really just find his stride in the last, I would say, he's always done a fantastic job, but really come into his own in the last 5 years. And, you know, as far as the administrative team, we were the ones that put together all of the documentation and do the interviews as far as the selection for the sergeant position. And all three of us agreed that we were just incredibly proud of how all candidates did. And, you know, it was difficult. It always is difficult, and that's a good problem to have in selecting someone to promote. But, you know, some people have asked me in the past, when you look at people and who is right to serve this community as a police officer, what do you look for? And honestly, personally, you know, every chief's different. Me personally, I want somebody that I would want showing up at my family's door, whether it's something very minor to something very major. And that's the sort of people we hire. Empathetic, kind, respectful individuals that take good care of our community. And Kyle certainly deserves to step in the role of a sergeant because he has exemplified those values along with the rest of the core values of our agency. And having him move up into this role will be leading by example and leading our newer, younger officers in the right direction. So I am excited to watch him as he embarks on this interesting part of his career. I remember those days myself. What I will say is a first-line supervisor is by far the most important position in a police department. They're right next to the boots on the ground. Sometimes they are the boots on the ground because we may have minimal staffing, and they have to be able to be that calm in the storm, not only when helping the public, but also helping officers who are seeing some of the things they're seeing, being treated some of the ways they've been treating, and just being that leader for the department in the moment. So very excited to watch him step into this role again. So Kyle, if you could step up. Okay, raise your right hand. Let me set this down. Repeat after me. I, Kyle M. Shuey, do solemnly swear that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
I, Kyle M. Shuey, do solemnly swear that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin, the charters, laws, and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin, the charter laws and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department, and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department, and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a sergeant of the Oregon Police Department.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as Sergeant of the Oregon Police Department.
I will assume my duties as of 6/9 of 2024.
I will assume my duties as of 6/9/2024.
Okay. All right, and then I'm going to have Kyle's wife stand up here. She's actually going to join us, and she's going to be the one to pin his new badge on his uniform.
All right.
As you can see, he doesn't have one on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give him a moment. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, I guess I will. She's not gonna be able to do that. Right. I don't think so, but she's gonna take roll call for vouchers anyway. We're gonna wait for, Candy's just having Kyle sign her certificate.
Okay.
So we're gonna momentarily pause. Okay, item 4B, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. 15 minutes will be provided for this item with a 3-minute maximum per speaker. Is there anyone here for public comments? Seeing none. Item 5, approval of vouchers in the amount of $396,041.12. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason and Tom, we have motion. Questions, comments on the vouchers? Tim, and then Carleen, I think.
Just wondering what a UB refund is.
So did I, me too.
It's a utility billing. It's usually when somebody is moving in or out of a home, and most of the time a duplicate payment happens, so we refund the homeowner for the overpayment.
Thank you.
Did you have one, Carleen, or?
Same question.
Oh, yeah, so did I. I don't remember seeing it before.
I thought it was gonna be under budget.
Oh,
That was my guess.
Yeah.
okay. Anybody other questions or comments? Okay, it's a roll call vote.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Kirchdorfer.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Beschen.
Yes.
Van Campen.
Yes.
Menke.
Yes.
And Higgins.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6, consent agenda. Staff recommendation, motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Items 6A and B. We're looking for a motion to approve. Tim and Tom. Questions or comments on these items? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, reports of committees, none. Item 8, unfinished business, items for discussion and/or possible action. A, downtown master plan community engagement strategy. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Did you want to?
I'll introduce Kristen again for those that didn't meet her the last time around. So we're before you tonight to present the stakeholder engagement strategy for the downtown master plan. We know that there was a lot of emphasis and focus on engaging the community and trying to hopefully gain some kind of consensus around our vision and direction for downtown. So we worked with Kristen and her team to put together a plan that has a variety of different engagement options, a lot of kind of non-traditional options, including again, coming to events, engaging people in a different way, coming to them rather than expecting that everybody wants to come to to Village Hall for an event on a beautiful summer evening. So trying to meet them where they are and engaging neighborhood residents that are within downtown, business owners and other stakeholders. We'll be proposing some mobile listening sessions. Chris will kind of talk about what we're envisioning for that. And I think that kind of covers it. So just a variety of different methods and kind of spanning most of the summer. So I'll let you take it away and go through a couple slides here.
Thank you. I'm Kristen.
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm Kristen Fish Peterson with Redevelopment Resources, and we're excited to be working on your downtown master plan. For public engagement or community engagement, we plan to do several in-person events. We've summarized them on the slide here. We'll start with Art Fair this Saturday, where we'll be at a table from 10 to 2, hopefully interacting with as many people as we can. We have a couple of different activities planned to catch people as they walk by. We'll also attend 2 summer or community band concerts in June, and 2 summer concert series concerts in July. We will attend National Night Out on August 6th. And then we want to have 2 different opportunities for interaction with smaller groups of business owners. We'll do a listening session with them, and we'll probably add a walking tour after that if time permits for their schedules. And we'll hope to do that at the end of June. We also then would like to do a mobile walking or listening session, talking and listening session with residents in the neighborhood. So we can get their perspective on downtown, what they're interested in, what they need, what they want to see, what might be acceptable or absolutely not acceptable to them. And those are good barometers for how we will structure the recommendations. We'll also do interviews with key stakeholders. Those will either be in person or virtual, but video, so we'll near in person. Then we'll do a couple of different options for engagement that aren't in person. So people who we don't see at these events, or the opportunities to meet with them in person, we'll do surveys. So we will have a QR code. On the next slide, we'll have a QR code with a survey that will be open from probably this Saturday through mid-July. And that will be promoted as many places as we can promote it. Social media, the village website, the chamber website, QR code at events for people to scan. Any other place we can post it in council packets or village board packets, all kinds of things. Get that community survey out. The survey has been mostly drafted. We're just receiving edits from the village this week. And then we'll also mail a postcard with a QR code and a survey to residents within a quarter mile of the downtown. So we can make sure we hear from everyone that's right there. We'll probably be having some presentations to the village board and the plan commission along the way as well. So there'll be opportunities for you to provide feedback, and you'll know where we're at any given point in the process. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Kristen. Carlene?
I know I'm going to be asked this, so I'm going to ask you, how are key stakeholders defined?
We'll work with the village staff, but beyond business owners and property owners, we'll be talking to the fire district for sure. We'll also be talking to other folks like the senior center, anybody who has an interest in downtown. But I also like to talk to brokers, realtors who might have their finger on the pulse of the commercial activity in the community, bankers, other people in the development industry to understand what's going on and what could go on.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Yeah, thanks. So I just want to clarify that the survey is for everybody in the village, but you're sending postcards just within a quarter mile to get
We're gonna have two separate surveys.
okay.
So the
separate.
general survey will be for everyone, visitors, residents.
Got it.
Everyone, and then we'll have a separate survey that will cater just to the needs of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Anyone else? Okay, we're looking for a motion on this item. A staff recommendation, motion to approve. Jason and Lynn. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Kristen.
Sounds like a good plan.
8B, referendum to exceed property tax levy limits and public education and communications approach submitted by Mueller Communications. I know there was a presentation in the packet. I don't believe anyone is here. Maybe Martin wants to make a comment.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, the board talked about setting a April 2025 tentative date for a referendum. Of course, we've been talking about that for the last few meetings. And one of the recommendations was to have staff come forward with a public relations and communications professional as sort of the first step in that direction, so that they can help us through this process. So as you'll see if you've had a chance to read my memo in the presentation that Mueller Communications put together, as Phil said, unfortunately they weren't able to come just for the short turnaround we had from the last meeting. But we're looking at quite a quick process, and I'll get into that in just a little bit on the reasons why. But backing up for just the consulting firm in general, typically, but not always, we often do requests for proposal processes for professional services. Just given the time frame, we'd probably lose quite a bit of time just going through that process if we're looking at April 2025. So I think in this case, it makes sense to just hire a firm that we're comfortable with and proceed with. And the reason why I've put Mueller forward is a couple of reasons. We do have a pre-existing relationship with them. If you'll recall, last July, we entered into an agreement with them for on-call crisis communication services. And they also have, and that was prompted by a relationship Mueller has with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, which gives all their member municipalities 2 free hours of consulting work. So we took advantage of that resource. And then the other reason beyond that is they are a pretty big player in municipal referendum, public relations and communications work. They're helping our neighbors to the north right now with the same process in Fitchburg. They helped Middleton through their process a couple of years ago, and then they've also done quite a few other communities throughout the state. So I asked Mueller, met with them a couple weeks ago after the last meeting, had them put together some information that's in your packet. You can take a look through it. They have a sort of more of like a 4-stage process that they work through for referendum work. The first stage that they advise, of course, is identifying needs. So that in this process, that's going to happen very quickly. We'll really only have about a month, maybe 2 months to do that work. Then they proceed into what they call an options assessment. So they take our needs that we've given them, and then they start developing scenarios around those needs. And then they use those scenarios for what will become a community survey. So needs, 1 to 2 months. Options assessment would take us through about September, and then they take that and then they put that into a community survey, which would happen between September through November. And that community survey will really ask questions based on that options assessment of what would the community support of those needs. So is it, one scenario could be a public safety referendum, or predominantly public safety, or it could be public works, or it could be a combination, or whatever we think is some different things that we want to, scenarios that we want to get feedback from the community on for determining how we're going to structure that final question. So that community survey would take place in the fall, as I said, through November, and then we'll have kind of a quick turnaround in December for deciding that final question. I believe the last meeting opportunity the board will have for that final decision is the first week in January, or the first meeting in January. So that's when the board will have to decide question language and dollar amounts. And then the final stage that Mueller helps with is referendum education at that point. So then they're going to put together a strategy for trying to communicate and educate on why the referendum is needed and for what purposes there is that need. So that's, if we're looking at an April 2025 referendum, that's kind of the process, the scope that they have found to be successful. And so that's what I would advise that we move forward with, if that's the target date. The cost at the top end is $57,169. I think between this year's budget, potential surplus there, general fund reserves, some other fund that we have undesignated funds in terms of capital, I think we can find those funds to make that work. I think that's all I wanted to cover. If there's any questions.
Okay, so what we have, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, what we have before us is a date that we're interested in. If we feel that April 25 is too soon, or the date we want to settle on, we also, whether or not we want to go ahead with communications. If we go with the April of 2025, then there's not enough time to necessarily do all the things we'd like to do, but it's certainly doable. So those are really the two decisions at hand, is if that's when we want to go ahead, and also if we'd like to use communications. And those can be two separate motions. Carleen.
November this year is way too soon, and there's not an election in November 2025. So unless we were going to wait till April 2026, I don't see a way around April 2025. Personally, I mean, it just seems like that's where we have to go, that we don't really have other options. But I'd entertain a different option, but Anybody else see a different one?
I don't see another option.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
Jason and then Tim?
I was gonna just real quick say, this is an aggressive schedule, but we knew it was gonna be an aggressive schedule, and hiring, don't wanna delay hiring Mueller or picking the date, so that way we can stay on top of things, and move forward, so.
Tim?
I think the one reason to move off April is if we think it would get voted down. And I don't know when we'll have a sense of that. If ever. Maybe after the election.
Go ahead, Amanda.
So we have to proceed as if it's April, but we're not gonna know whether we can proceed until Mueller does some of their work. So, I mean, I don't think that changes our discussion tonight. I think tonight we should just say April and be done with it. That's our aim. If it changes as we get closer, we can always change it. But right now, I think we should go ahead with April. So I'm willing to make that motion. I think we should make it, aim for April 2025.
Okay. And Carleen, are you second? Okay. We have a motion before us then to set a target date of April of 2025. Pardon me?
That, we did set that by resolution last time. I mean, if you wanted to change that, you could.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I don't think we need.
That's what
But
I thought.
I think for what I guess from what it sounds like, if you want to proceed with that and then the recommendation with Mueller, I think what we're looking for is a motion to authorize staff to finalize the contract scope of work with Mueller for what you see laid out here.
Okay, Lynn?
My only question before we go through that is, we talked about a staffing survey, and it sounds to me like maybe that's just not something that Mueller can fit into their timeline. Is there a concurrent, a way that we can concurrently do that through somebody else, or do you feel like less? What's your assessment about that?
Given the timeline, I don't think we have the time to be able to do that. Because, especially if, and I think this is a key piece of what Mueller is putting forward, is the community survey of really trying to capture that, what are people going to accept as a referendum. You really have to have a 3-month window to be able to do that, which they have between September and November. And then once you get out of November, December, you're really only going to have maybe 2 or 3 meetings to decide what you want to put on the ballot in January. So between now and September, we have 3 months. We don't have time to do that. I mean, to bring somebody on to be able to do that work for us, and keep in mind, Mueller is they're not a HR professional. They're not a budgeting or finance professional. They're going to help us create a strategy for getting through this and then communicating that strategy. That's what they do. So what it will look like in terms of identifying needs is it's really going to be, a month and a half, maybe 2 months at best, for staff to just try to bring that all together. And then to turn that over to Mueller, and then for Mueller to create some different scenarios that then they can transpose then into a community survey for us.
Thanks.
Tom? And then Amanda?
I guess I think we should move forward. I think we need to get the ball rolling probably 2 months ago. But the issue that I guess if we have to be prepared to that if things are not looking like this is going to be accepted in the community, we have to be able to pivot after that. And as long as we have that understanding going into it, then I'm fine with this. And working aggressively for the 2025 April date.
Okay. Amanda?
Yeah, I think, I would hope at this point that some department heads have an idea of their staffing needs going forward. I don't think we're going into this just like with no idea, right? So I feel like, yes, I think phase 1A is identifying the needs, and I think Mueller's probably gonna, give us some tips on how to anticipate what our needs are gonna be, so we can craft a referendum that is going to address those needs. I mean, I think we need to move ahead with Mueller, and I think we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. So.
Carleen?
I agree with everything that's been said, and I think that when we're thinking about identifying needs, the thing that always occurs to me is that we need to do it in a really comprehensive way, so that we're looking at everything, even if we don't have a staffing study that's been done or any of those, any specific studies, but really trying to think holistically about all the things that are entailed in the budgets that we're approving every year and all the things that come up. So we know what they are. And so, I just feel like we look at this and then we look at that and then we look at this other thing, but got to kind of think about how we're going to lump them all together and prioritize.
Okay. And
I just want to add, I think this is, first of all, appreciate the work that you've done, Martin, to bring this to us as fast as you possibly could. I think that's awesome. My hope in the staffing study was that we wouldn't put the ownership on department heads to have to do that legwork, because you're already doing so much. And I think a involved third party saying, like, this is what you all need, helps the community see that it's not just us asking for these things, it's professionals assessing that, like, we are understaffed in specific ways. I understand that that's timeline not possible, so I guess going forward, I have all the faith in the world that department heads can make this, and I'd encourage the community to know that we'll do this as professionally and, as focused as we possibly can, so that we're really asking for the things that we need.
Okay, so the matter at hand is to approve the Mueller Communications contract. So a motion to approve. Amanda? And everybody else. Lynn, how about that? And further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all. Item 8C, Village Board Public Outreach Program. 1, resolution number 24-14, adopting the Village Board Public Outreach Program. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Lynn, I suspect.
Yeah, do you need a motion first?
Oh, yeah, it looked like I saw Tim Tan and Tom. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. This is actually probably more from Martin than it is from me. He put together sort of the official language, did a nice job of keeping it broad enough to adjust to, what different village boards might look like, and then implemented a lot of things going through the village clerk's office. So I thank Candy already for the amount of back and forth that she's done with me for the last couple of weeks. This is coming together quite nicely, I think. Very excited about it. We kick off with our first event on Friday, and then we'll be at the art fair on Saturday and throughout the summer. And I think it'll be a great way for us to do our part to get some of this information out to the community and be available for questions.
Okay. I just want to compliment you on the idea and putting this all together, and certainly with staff working, and we did it quickly, and I think it's just a great idea. So I just want to mention that. We have a motion, a second. Are there further discussion? Tom?
I just want to comment that this is very timely. We're going to be talking a lot of community involvement in the next months. There's going to be the downtown plan. There's going to be our referendum. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot to talk about. We should have a lot to have conversations when people show up. So it's very timely to make sure that we're getting this engagement and giving extra points for people to make contact. And I think this was well thought out. It was an idea that was at the right time. So congratulations.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, for informational only, Village President Van Camp and selection of trustee Lynn McDaniel as outreach coordinator pending approval of item AC1. So, thus you are appointed. Congratulations. C3, proposed outreach program for summer 24. Oh, well, I guess did you want to? Go ahead.
Nothing. The only thing is that we have filled in dates. It's August 6th for National Night Out, and something else has a blank in there, but we've got it all figured out.
Okay.
I would suggest approving that, so the policy says that the board will approve the plan.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve this program. Tim and Carleen, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, new business items for discussion and or possible action. A, resolution number 24-17, approving a revised development cost reimbursement template agreement. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Jason, motion, and Amanda. Anybody?
I've got some comments.
Please.
So as you may know, we typically ask for developers to provide us a cost reimbursement agreement to cover some of the costs that the village incurs as part of the entitlement process. This could include annexation agreements and ordinances, development agreements, and then also staff time associated with any zoning issues or construction of public infrastructure to serve developments. As you can see in the email from me to Martin and other staff, we've made certain targeted changes. I think some of the biggest ones were probably to identify, number one, to clarify the scope of the development agreement, or rather the reimbursement agreement, so that we make sure we're covering it from cradle to grave, essentially. At one time in the past, it was intended to cover only through the development agreement, at which point the development agreement would include certain additional provisions related to the reimbursement of costs. We think it makes more sense to have it cleaner to have one agreement that from start to finish, essentially. The second big piece of this is making a change related to a topping up of this deposit amount. In the past, what happens is we collect a deposit, and we only use that deposit amount if the developer doesn't pay any invoice amounts within 30 days. And so if that happens, then we start to draw off that deposit. And so this is making it clear that if we start to draw off that deposit, we're also going to come back to you and require you to top up that deposit as we go, because we need to make sure that we hold that surety in place so that as we continue on the project, that we still have money in place to cover any anticipated obligations. The agreement is clear that by approving the cost reimbursement agreement, it doesn't obligate the board to approve any of the entitlements along the way, right? So by approving this reimbursement agreement doesn't mean that you get a development agreement approved. It doesn't mean that you get any zoning changes approved, et cetera. But more importantly, it also says that very clearly that if you somehow fail to pay some of these costs associated with the development along the way, that the board doesn't have to take any action regarding your development, right? It essentially can freeze you in place. And this is just a compliance tool for us to make sure that, again, the village is not left holding the bag at the end of the day for any costly projects. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Betty? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 10, reports of village officers, department heads, and consultants. This is for information only. No action by the village board will be taken. C, reports in meeting packet. A, village administrator report. Oh.
What did that say?
So the village is where people live.
I love
Siri thought we had a question.
Kind of going back to basics there. But
Okay. 10B, sale day report for $6,575,000 general obligation promissory notes, series 2024A. There was pretty detailed in the packet. Martin, you have something to add?
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of words. So, of course, we went out for debt earlier this year. The board approved in April, and we had the bid opening on May 16th. And the sale day report from Ellers is in the packet, just summarizing everything that transpired with that. in summary, it came out basically as expected. We had a little bit more premium than we thought on the bid, so we can use some of that for our interest payments over the first couple of years, which is nice. And the interest was just a hair above what they projected in the pre-sale report. So over the life of this 20-year note, principal interest is $27,000 higher than they thought it would be. So pretty much right on top of what they thought. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Not seeing any questions, so, all right. And we don't need to approve anything, we just move on. All right. Item 10C, joint press release from the Oregon Police Department and Oregon Area Fire EMS District regarding May 21 damages incurred due to inclement weather. Any comment on that, or?
No.
Okay, it's in the packet. 10D, Library Director Report.
And this is in the packet, but I am going to comment on it. If that's okay.
All right, so it's, let me just say for that, it's an update on the $1 million CDS grant and short-term borrow.
And this seems a little bit anticlimactic because many of you have been talking about this grant for 18 months with me through lots of discussions about the library project. When the bids came back, we were talking about it, but I'm happy to officially announce and celebrate that we did officially get the grant. The grant was through the Congressionally Directed Spending Program. We applied through Senator Baldwin's office in April of 2022. And finally, this spring, we're able to get the first disbursements of that grant funding. So I just wanted to take a minute, since we had so many discussions and went through lots of work to apply. I did want to officially celebrate that and take a moment to celebrate the good parts of the grant. We have so far gotten just over $950,000 of the funding. We do have a remaining balance that we will collect once we have our final payment to Tri-North for their work to get to the full $1 million. But we weren't, even though we've talked about it a lot, we really weren't confident that we would be guaranteed for the funding. So I just want to say thank you to Martin for encouraging us at every step of the way when we were hoping that we would maybe not have to keep going on it, but to make it through. Also to Candy Jones, who spent a lot of time helping provide documentation for the grants, and then Lisa Novinska for her assistance as well. So we are just grateful because that was $1 million that this board agreed to borrow to help the library project that you did not need to borrow because of the grant funding coming through. So that was a wonderful contribution to our project. So just want to take a moment to celebrate that and to thank Senator Baldwin and her office for making this funding possible. The second part I also want to acknowledge is that we did take a short-term loan back in December. You agreed to take a short-term loan to cover the expenses that we had that were to be covered by the grant, but because it's a reimbursement based, we needed some funding in the bank to pay for those bills until the grant funds were available. And OCB and Lisa were super helpful in securing that grant once your approval was made. We did pay it off in full as of April, so there's no outstanding balance on that loan, but it was very important to make sure we could pay our bills in the meantime. So just want to say thank you to all of you for being so supportive, all the staff that helped out to make that possible, and just to keep you updated on it, to celebrate something positive, so thank you.
Carleen?
And we would be very remiss if we did not thank you, Jennifer, for all the work that you did on this and taking the lead and keeping this board and the library board informed, and all the staff there that also really helped to make it happen. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And I would just add my comment that I know Jennifer spent a lot of time babysitting this loan through there. Took probably a lot more of her time than she was planning, and I certainly want to express my appreciation, both to you and Lisa and Candy and everyone else on the staff for making that happen.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Amanda?
I'll just also add that we spend a lot of time talking about other legislators and saying, like state level and other, how it affects our jobs here, but some kudos to Senator Baldwin. Next time you happen to fill out a survey or talk to her office, please remember this, and we're very grateful that she could help, and her office could help facilitate this.
Okay. Thank you. Item 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. A, announcements, comments, communications, upcoming meetings and events, and miscellaneous business. Village board members may provide brief statements, but no discussion of action shall occur. Jason?
Just a reminder, the Public Art Fair is this Saturday, 29 artists, all set up, and there's gonna be food and vendors, and you can even buy a t-shirt, or 6. So I recommend you get there, we're getting the rain out of the way.
Yes, good. Good. Please.
Oh,
Go
am I
ahead.
allowed to
Yes,
ask a
no?
question?
Yes, you can ask a question.
I
but-
just want to ask, is the logo on the t-shirt the same as last year? Is
No,
it-
new logo.
New logo, okay, all right. I spilled mustard on mine last year, so I need a new one.
It's on the main page of the website if you want to see it.
I'm not sure mustard comments are allowed. But
It's an announcement.
yes, okay, right. That's right. Okay, anybody else for announcements? Lynn?
Along that same line, we have the first outdoor movie night on Friday,
sure
so we'll give a
do.
shout out to
Yeah.
Leanne and
Yeah.
all the work she's been doing. If you take a look at the June calendar, there's lots going on, and a lot of it is due to a lot of hardworking staff here on the village. So we appreciate all that you've done for us.
Anybody else?
Can I just add something?
Please.
We're aware that 2 trustees won't be able to make the meeting next time on the 17th. So if you, for some reason, cannot attend, please let us know so we can make sure that we have quorum.
Okay, future agenda items. Hearing none,
Phil,
please.
over here.
Oh. Trying to keep
I
up.
just had a quick announcement before we adjourn. My husband received a message from the Oregon Softball Association. They had a big tournament this weekend at the new JC Community Park, and there were many comments on how nice of a facility it is. So I just want to let the board know that their vision is being appreciated.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now future agenda items. Hearing none. Item 12, adjournment. Motion approved, Tim and Jason. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much. Tim and Jason.
I did. Yeah. I had to do it.